Daytime, sunlight streaming through the wide cafe windows, the clatter of cups and gentle hum of conversation filled the air. But for Ava Lynn, the world had always been a little quieter, almost like watching a movie without sound. She could see people laugh, she could read their lips when she tried, but she had never once heard the sound of her own laughter. And yet, she carried herself with quiet dignity, her brown hair tucked behind one ear, a faint smile on her lips as she sat nervously at a corner table waiting. She was early, 10 minutes early, because she always was. Punctuality was her way of showing respect. Today mattered. Today was her first blind date in 2 years, and she hoped, maybe foolishly, that this one might be different. If you believe kindness still exists in this world and that everyone deserves a second chance at love and respect, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal, where stories like this remind us what it means to be human. The man she was waiting for was Ethan, a colleague of her coworker's friend, someone who had been told about her through casual conversation. He had agreed to meet her after a few exchanged messages online. Ava had mentioned in her profile that she was deaf, though she never led with it. She didn't want pity, only honesty. When she saw him walk into the cafe, tall, well-dressed, and carrying that confident smile that made people turn, she instinctively sat up straighter, smoothing the front of her soft pink dress. She raised her hand in a shy wave. Ethan paused, then walked over. He sat across from her and pulled out his phone, typing, "Hi Ava, you look great." He smiled, then turned the screen toward her. She smiled back warmly and replied by speaking softly, her voice gentle but slightly flat, the kind that comes from someone who's never truly heard sound. "Thank you. You too." But something shifted almost immediately. Ethan's smile faltered, just slightly. He looked uncomfortable. He started checking his phone, looking around the cafe, barely meeting her eyes. He typed again, this time slower. "I didn't realize you couldn't hear at all. I thought, maybe just a little." Ava blinked, her fingers tightening on the edge of her cup. "I can read lips," she said softly. "And I can speak. It's okay." He nodded, but his discomfort deepened. He glanced toward the counter, clearly searching for an excuse. The silence between them was heavier than she was used to, not because of her deafness, but because of the lack of kindness. She could feel it, the withdrawal, the quiet rejection before words even formed. When their drinks arrived, he typed one last thing, "You're really nice, but I don't think this would work for me. I'm sorry." Then he stood up, no handshake, no goodbye, just the faint scent of his cologne as he walked out the door and left her sitting alone. Ava didn't cry. She'd learned long ago that tears didn't fix anything, but she did stare at the untouched cappuccino across the table, its steam fading into the air, a symbol of yet another hope that cooled too soon. Around her, laughter echoed faintly in her mind, but it was all silent to her. That's when she noticed someone watching her, not in a rude or invasive way, but with genuine concern. Across 2 tables away sat a man with slightly messy hair, wearing a navy button-down shirt, a child's pink backpack sitting beside him. A little girl, maybe 7 years old, sat next to him, drawing with crayons on a napkin. The man's eyes, warm, kind, and curious, met Ava's for a moment. He smiled gently, then looked toward his daughter as she tugged at his sleeve. The little girl, her eyes bright, pointed toward Ava with an innocent kind of compassion. The man took a deep breath, then did something that froze Ava completely. He raised his hands and signed to her, carefully, beautifully, "You deserve better." Ava's breath caught in her throat. For a moment, she thought she'd imagined it, but his signing was fluent, natural. Tears stung her eyes before she could stop them. She signed back hesitantly, "You know sign language." He nodded, smiling. Then he signed again, "My daughter is hard of hearing. I learned for her." That was all it took. The barrier she had felt her whole life, the invisible wall between her and everyone else, began to crack just a little. His name was Noah Hart, a single dad who had been raising his daughter Mila alone since his wife passed away 3 years ago. They were at the cafe every Saturday morning, a little tradition to draw, read, and spend time together. Ava learned this later, but in that moment, all she saw was kindness, not pity. The kind of empathy that comes from someone who's known loss and understands silence in his own way. Mila, curious and open-hearted, waved shyly at Ava. She pointed to her drawing, a picture of a sun and 2 stick figures holding hands. Ava smiled, signing slowly so the little girl could understand. "That's beautiful." Mila giggled, covering her mouth. Noah gestured toward the empty seat at their table. Hesitant but grateful, Ava gathered her things and walked over. The transition from loneliness to connection was almost too sudden to process. As she sat down, Noah typed on his phone. Though he signed parts of it too so she could follow. I saw what happened. I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that. Ava stared at the message for a long second before replying by typing on his phone, it's okay. I'm used to it. He looked at her then, really looked at her, and signed. That's the saddest sentence I've ever seen. She smiled sadly. But as the minutes passed, something inside her softened. They began to talk, part signing, part writing, part reading lips. Mila showed her drawings, proudly signing clumsy little words that made Ava laugh silently. Noah watched her, seeing how Ava's eyes lit up when she smiled. There was a strength there, a quiet, unshakable resilience, the kind of beauty that went beyond what anyone could hear or say. Over the next few weeks, Ava found herself returning to that cafe. At first, it was by coincidence, or so she told herself. But Noah and Mila were always there, and gradually, coincidence turned into routine. They'd share breakfast, small jokes, and the warmth of unspoken understanding. One bright morning, Noah brought a notebook with sketches of hands, signing positions drawn carefully in pencil. Mila's homework, he explained, writing the words for her. Ava smiled and began helping Mila practice. The little girl was a quick learner, giggling every time she got a word right. When Mila went to play at the nearby park table, Noah signed slowly, his eyes steady on Ava. I don't know how anyone could look at you and walk away. Ava blushed, shaking her head, signing modestly, because people don't like what they can't understand. Noah leaned forward, signing with a small, knowing smile. Then, maybe the world needs more people willing to listen without hearing. Ava felt her chest tighten. In her quiet world, those words were the loudest she had ever heard. Weeks turned into months. They shared countless mornings together. Ava started teaching sign language at a local community center, inspired by Mila's progress. Noah often volunteered there, bringing coffee and helping organize lessons. He told Ava one afternoon, through his hands, not his voice, that he'd never met anyone who made silence feel so full. But the world, as always, tested them. When Ava's landlord decided to sell the small apartment she rented, she had to move across the city. It meant longer commutes, fewer cafe mornings, and less time with Noah and Mila. She didn't want to burden them, so she didn't say much. Noah, though, noticed the distance, in her eyes, in her schedule, in her fading smile. One morning, she didn't show up at all. 2 weeks passed. Then 3. Mila missed her, drawing pictures of Miss Ava in her sketchbook every day. One sunny Saturday, Noah and Mila were sitting at their cafe table again. A cup of coffee sat across from Noah, untouched, just like Ava's that first day. Mila looked up and signed, where is she, Daddy? Noah sighed, maybe she's busy, sweetheart. But fate had other plans. Just as he said it, the cafe door opened. Ava stepped inside, hair slightly windswept, a folder clutched in her hands. Her eyes widened when she saw them. Mila jumped up, running toward her, wrapping tiny arms around her waist. Ava laughed silently, hugging her back tightly. Noah stood, meeting her eyes. She walked over, and before she could sign anything, he handed her a small card. On it, in perfect handwriting, were the words, "We missed you." Ava smiled, tears welling in her eyes. She reached into her folder and handed him a flyer, a printed announcement that read, Community Sign Language Classes, Instructor Ava Lynn. Below it, the sponsor name, Heart Family Foundation. Noah's eyebrows lifted in surprise. She signed softly, You did this. He nodded. Mila and I wanted to help. People need to learn kindness. You showed us that. Ava couldn't stop the tears now. The world around her, once muted, lonely, and distant, suddenly felt alive. She looked at Noah and Mila, realizing that kindness wasn't always loud. Sometimes, it was in the silent moments, in the hands that spoke more truth than words ever could. That day, as they all sat together again, Ava teaching Mila new signs, Noah smiling at them both. Sunlight poured through the cafe window like a blessing. Ava looked up, signing softly, her hands trembling with emotion. You changed my life. Noah reached across the table, signing back, No, Ava. You reminded us how to listen, and in that quiet cafe where love spoke without a single sound, they found something none of them expected, a new beginning. If this story touched your heart or made you believe again in the power of kindness and understanding, please like, comment, and subscribe to Kindness Journal, where every story reminds us that compassion can change a life. Special request. Comment below with the words, "Kindness speaks louder than words," if you believe in love that listens, even in silence.